Fine.
Should I
Okay.
put on a necklace?
No, you're beautiful. Okay, so please, for the record, state your name.
Lucile Smith.
Okay, Lucille, would you tell me a little bit about when your family came to Savannah and where they originally came from?
My mother's family came from France in the 1800s, and I'm not sure where my dad's family came from.
Did he also come to Savannah around the same time as your family? And how did they end up in Savannah?
My dad's family was from, well, my dad came here from New Jersey. I assume his family landed in New York. My dad was a traveling salesman and met my mother in Savannah through a mutual friend in Savannah. My dad's family did start a synagogue in New Jersey. I don't know too much about his family.
Do you know the name of the synagogue?
I forgot it, but his name was Hirsch, changed to Harris.
Okay.
And the name was Hirsch where the synagogue started.
All right, hold on just a second.
Know where that paper is?
All right, so at what point did your family come to Savannah, and what type of businesses were they involved with?
My mother was born here, and my dad was a traveling salesman. They met through a mutual friend, and he worked here traveling. Eventually, he left that job and worked for my grandfather, his father-in-law, in the food business, and they stayed in Savannah.
Your grandparents that
My mother's side.
on your mother's side, they were born here as well?
My mother was, and her parents were.
And where were their parents before them?
France.
That was France. Okay, but do you think they came through Ellis Island? They didn't come through the port of Savannah, but they just ended up here?
I'm not sure. The ones from France, I think, came directly from France to Savannah.
And the name was Hirsch, and they changed it to Harris.
That was the Harris, yes.
The dog is probably freaking out. And why? Why did they change the name?
I guess with Ellis Island. The Harris side went to Ellis Island. The Herman, my mother's side, I don't think went to Ellis Island. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think so.
So the name was changed for them, or it was a decision that they made?
I don't know.
You mentioned about being in a grocery type business.
Food broker.
A food, okay. And how did they come to that business? Do you know?
My grandfather was in it, and his brother was in it.
And what was the nature of the business? Was it a storefront or peddling or?
Food broker.
Food broker. They sold to the grocery wholesale, and which sold to the grocery stores.
I've now spoken to at least 10 people whose grandparents or parents were in that same line of business. Do you know if your parents worked in conjunction with other groups or were totally in competition? Was this just a Jewish thing that
It
they all
wasn't
had?
in competition because they sold different.
Occasionally.
Okay, then wait, I'll hold that question. All right. Tell me about growing up Jewish in Savannah.
I did not feel any anti-Semitism. I was very well accepted being Jewish. In fact, I remember very little, but I do remember being at the Jewish holidays. I guess I was a little older, and I didn't live in a Jewish community of homes, if you will, growing up. But I remember staying home for the first day of the holiday because at McBee Israel, that's all we did when I was growing up. And I went to school the second day, and many of my friends asked me why I was at school, being a Jewish holiday, not being ugly. And I didn't take it as being ugly, but because it was a Jewish holiday, they were very concerned that I should not be at school, that I should be home. So, of course, I had to explain to them that I only celebrate one day, and they were satisfied. But I never felt any anti-Semitism at all, but very well accepted being Jewish in Savannah.
I had a few people who told me that there were certain clubs that they knew that they couldn't join, or...
Absolutely. We could not join any sororities in high school. And we couldn't, of course, join a lot of clubs.
This was in a public high school?
Mhm.
And they were Christian-based, or was there a different reason why you couldn't join?
I just know we couldn't join them. I don't know that they were Christian-based, but they were sororities in high school. One of them was Entre Nous. That's the one I remember. Quisqui. We could not join them. They were not for Jewish girls. Just like Junior League was not for Jewish girls. When I was younger, I believe Jews can now join. I think later on they could join these sororities in high school, I think. But just like Jews couldn't join the yacht club, and they couldn't join, what is that around the corner? Oglethorpe Club, I don't know.
And this was just standard accepted practice
It was
that
accepted.
these were not for you?
And no one wanted to do it. We didn't
So were
try.
there Jewish alternatives to these clubs?
Well, there was BBG, there was a JEA. We just had our own little groups that we went
Youth
to.
group?
We had the temple, the youth group. Each synagogue had their youth groups. And I know that many people would join youth groups from other synagogues. And we just intermingled among ourselves, and we didn't care, and we didn't feel left out because we had our own thing. We may have been friendly with these girls in these sororities, but we knew that it wasn't ours, and it was okay. We didn't fight it.
Were there activities that you wished you could have participated in that were clear that you shouldn't try for? Some type of sports activities or other type of activities through school?
Jews could go into any sports in school well, I guess they couldn't if they were such that they couldn't do anything on the weekends, but I wasn't involved with any people like that. Anybody from the temple that I was involved with, or even the AA, or even the BB for that matter, did not keep the Sabbath as such that they wouldn't do things on Saturday, so that was not a problem.
Was your family always associated with Congregation Mikveh Israel?
Yes.
Did you have friends from the other congregations?
I did. When we joined the JEA, I was 10, and that's when I met other people and became very friendly with them. And my wings kind
What
of
were your
spread.
favorite type of activities?
Well, I went to camp for one day camp. After that, I was too old. But they had camp, per se, for older children, if you will. After that, and that was tennis, bowling, different things like that, which I participated in, which was fun. I was on the swim team. I would go to the JEA at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it was, 8:30 for swim team practice, and I came home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I would go back at night for a tween canteen or whatever and just stay half the night and play in the game room all day. And I was introduced to pizza. During those days, there was the Globe restaurant that was owned by, what's his name?
Sutka.
The Sutker family, and we would walk over to the Globe and have lunch and then go back to the JEA and swim and play in the game room. And we would just stay all day long. We definitely got our money's worth for me. Membership.
There was a time when Jewish children, whether they were cognizant of it or not, really weren't allowed to go to other clubs. So the JEA really was the be-all and end-all. That's not necessarily true today, and Jews can join all different types of organizations, and I guess in some way it's hurt enrollment. Was it different for your child growing up in terms of the value that the JEA provided for activities?
I hate to answer that question. Becky went to camp at the JEA. We didn't live here. Well, we did. Becky went to day camp at the JEA for a couple of years, but she was not too involved with anything over there. She didn't like it. Don't put that in there, but she didn't like it. Not sure what.
She probably didn't know the kids.
Well, she knew the kids. She went to school with all of them. She knew.
Well, when we lived here, when we didn't live
When
here.
we lived here.
Oh, okay.
And she didn't like BBG. She was very involved with TYG And that's where her love was. She was went to anything that they had to offer at Camp Coleman, all the conventions, which was 3 and 4 and 5 times a year. Anytime she could get away for a weekend for a conference, anytime she could get to camp, that's where her love was. And she did not seem to miss what was at the JEA, and she was just really
Sadly,
happy.
there's no TYG organization here in Savannah anymore, but could you tell me a little bit about your memories of being in the Temple Youth Group?
It was the best thing that happened to me. I became president my second year in the youth group, which I wasn't sure what I was getting into. And I was forced to go to a convention, which I didn't want to go to. But since I had to go, I went, and it opened my eyes to another type of living, and it was the best thing that happened to me. I went to was then called Camp Safety, which was not Camp Coleman because it wasn't. Not sure when Coleman started, maybe my junior or senior year in high school, so I never really went to Coleman. But Safety Camp was the best thing that ever happened to me. I have wonderful memories of it. In fact, this last weekend, I was up in that neck of the woods with Becky, and I insisted that she take me to Coleman to refresh my memories. And we hemmed and hawed that they wouldn't let us in because there were campers there, but we decided to give it a shot. And the fellow at the gate, which was not gated when I went, or when she went to Coleman Camp Coleman, looked at me like I'd lost my marbles when I wanted to get in. But he gave the director a call, Bobby Harris, and after about a 15-minute conversation with him, and, well, I don't even think it was with him, but another woman that came out of the gate that we did not know who it was, and 2 or 3 times back to our car, what was your name, what was your name, and what did you say your name was? Smith is a hard name to remember. This woman comes to us and says, "Oh, Bobby Harris cannot get with you. He's tied up." But he said, "Please come and make yourself at home." We spent about 2 hours in the camp, walking around, going back to services that they were having at the time we got there. And we did not want to leave. It just brought back my whole childhood again to me. And it was the best part of my trip of 5 days in Atlanta and Dahlonega. So that was.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I had noticed that the JEA 1955 campus, the one that we currently use, was really set up like the old-fashioned kids camps, with the bunkhouse and then the fields behind. And did you see any crossover between the kinds of activities you did at Camp Coleman and the things that were offered at the JEA when you were growing up?
I don't think so. All I remember when I went to Safety Camp is when I got home, after each Safety Camp session, I could not believe how wonderful it was, and all we did was religious things, and I didn't realize it at the time that it was all religious activities. The way they made it so much fun, and I just feel like it was all fun and playing games at the JEA camp, which was great at my age and at the time. So no, I can't relate that they were anywhere similar, but they were both great. The one year I went to day camp at the JEA was great, but the other times I went, it was different because I wasn't day camp because I was too old.
Where does your religious understanding of who you are come from? Does it come from your parents, from classes you took, from the rabbis you studied with, or from camp experience, or is it just something that's innate, that's part of you?
Probably innate, probably from home, and I think a large part from Safety Camp.
What is the most important thing that your parents taught you about being Jewish?
I don't know. It's just an innate thing that you do right. You take care of others. What's important to me, I don't think I got from my parents. my parents did not do a lot of symbolic religious things in the household, and I didn't know a lot of these things till I got older. And I made it a point in my household to do them so my child would know what they were, whether she did them later in life or not. She didn't hear about them and say, "What is that?" She made some things that I didn't know about because I never knew what kugel was growing up. I never knew what a potato latke was growing up because we never had it, and to me that was important to know about. Whether you have it or not, it's okay. I never knew what, wait a minute, stop the roll.
In the South,
Well, they probably ate it, and I never knew what herring was or gefilte fish. We never had it in my house. I never had whitefish salad until I would go to bar and bat mitzvahs, and that's where that was introduced to me. So I made it a point that my child knew what these things were. She doesn't have to eat it. She doesn't have to like it, but she knows what it is, and to me that's important. I like following a lot of the traditions of the religion. To me it's important. Does it make you a better Jew? Certainly. Like make some people a better Jew knowing they're following the traditions. I don't know, but to me that's important, and I certainly didn't get that from my household. In my family, we did Shabbat every week. We lit the candles. We did the wine and the bread. We didn't go through a Friday night, but we did do that. And that
what about
was
Passover?
We did Passover every year. We did go to services. Now I would say on a regular basis, not every week, but not twice a year. We went several times a month. We did that on a regular basis. Religion was important. Judaism was important to my family. Now, I don't know if it was more important to my dad than my mother, but it was important in the house.
Were you bat mitzvah? Were any girls bat mitzvah at the time that you were growing up?
Neither boys nor girls were traditionally bar or bat mitzvahed. Confirmation was the thing, and we were, both my brother and I were confirmed. There were a few children that were bar or bat mitzvahed in my day, but I think as far as a tradition to start bar and bat mitzvah, started with Becky. Although some children were before that time on occasion. I know a few, I can tell you offhand, a couple that I can remember that were before Becky, but it wasn't the norm.
So tell me about confirmation. What did it signify?
Not much. I don't remember. At that point, I was a teenager and I just wanted to get out. We did meet every week in the library with Rabbi Sterles. I don't remember what we talked about. I do remember the girls had a floral offering that everybody read the same piece every year. The girls had the same type thing, and we had to memorize what we were saying. We couldn't read it. We went up to the ark and gave our flowers to the ark and said our piece. I don't know what happened to the flowers. We never saw them again. We wore white dresses, and it was a year or so after that we stopped with the dresses. I think the boys wore either tuxedos or sport coats. It depended on the parents because they made these decisions. But there was a problem somewhere, and then they started with the robes. We met in the rabbi's office, and then it was on a Saturday morning before services, and then we went to services afterwards every Saturday morning. The confirmation class had to do that, and we went. I mean, it was not a question that we had something else to do. We were there at whatever time, at 10 o'clock or 9:30, whatever time we had to be there for confirmation. And at 11 o'clock, we went to services. It was just
you went, and the expectation was that you participate until you did it. You didn't necessarily do it out of love or interest, but it was what you were expected to do.
And the parents said, "You're doing it."
You're doing it, and so
it.
there was. But it seems like if the speeches were given to you and the procedure was given to you, and you really didn't have so much say in the matter, in fact, did it teach you any lessons about Judaism, or that was just a ritual that the synagogue created?
It may have been a ritual. I don't remember if we had anything that we specifically wrote ourselves. We may have. I don't remember. Dr. Starrett was old when he taught us compilation.
What was your favorite Jewish memory growing up?
Going to safety.
Was going to Sefti. And
pretty sad.
did you have any member? No, not necessarily, because it's fun and you're with kids and you're enjoying yourself.
And we did
and
nothing
just-
but Jewish learning that, couldn't tell you what they were, but when I got home I realized all we did was Jewish learning, you know, and it was fun.
But maybe that's what you were really doing all along, is you're living Judaism, so you don't necessarily have to study or explain it, which is an interesting take on who you are religiously. What about Savannah? You mentioned that you don't really remember any overt anti-Semitism, but what was it like growing up in Savannah? This, I would assume, at least part of your growing up years was before racial equality and the civil rights movement. And do you have any memories of going to school or activities with black children, or doing activities through the Jewish community that included other minorities?
I remember when I was in high school, it was right before integration. Although black children could come to the white schools if they had their own transportation. And I did go have some classes in high school with one or two black kids. And one black young man did help get me through geometry. I don't remember his name, but he was very smart, very nice. I think about him often, but I don't remember his name. I wonder what happened to him, because he should have gone far in life. He was very smart. So when I was in school, there was absolutely no problems with the quote-unquote integration, because they came by choice. There was no busing. I got out before all that started, so I didn't have any issues with that. I was out a couple of years before that started.
And by the time Becky was going through school?
There was no way she was going to public school. So she didn't have any problems with it either.
Did you or any member of your family participate in either the civil rights movement or the feminist movement?
No. I do remember something about the Ku Klux Klan coming to Savannah. I was too young to really have it affect me, and there was a curfew. I don't remember what time, because it didn't affect me that I would have to be in, but there was a curfew set.
Curfew for kids, a curfew for Jews, a curfew for all
Everybody.
people?
Everybody. And I don't think there was any issues that happened, but they were here, and there were curfews for everybody to be in, but they just kind of were here, as what I remember. Is that right? I don't remember that there were any problems that happened, and I think if there had been problems, I would remember, because I remember they came and there were curfews, and they came and they went. They just weren't any. They didn't cause any problems, because we didn't have problems. I do remember. I don't know if I remember or saw it at the Civil Rights Museum. Where the blacks were not allowed to be seated at Levy's department store, and I used to eat there all the time. But apparently, I wasn't there when this issue happened. I don't know if I was forbidden to go there during this time. I don't remember that.
Do you ever remember thinking about it? Civil rights, or the fact that you didn't go to school with black people, or you didn't?
No, because I did. I mean, I did when it started, but it was by choice, and there were no issues, so it was okay. They were nice, and they were, so it didn't bother me.
Did your mother work outside the home?
Not really. She helped my dad in the business, but that was in the mornings, and that was if she had something else to do. Okay, well, I'm not going to do this today, but she didn't have, otherwise she did not know.
Was there an expectation that you would go on to college or advance your
That's
education?
interesting. My mother tried to talk me out of going to college.
And what was the reason?
I didn't need to go to college. I could just go somewhere and become a bookkeeper. That was no reason to go to college, but I was not interested in that, and I was insistent on going to college.
So where did you go?
I went here to Armstrong.
And what type of studies did you pursue?
Social work, and the whole time I was going, she tried to talk me out of it. Interesting, isn't it?
Well, it was the mindset of that generation. Can you remember any specific reason?
It's not
Did you-
necessary.
It's not, just not necessary.
You just need to go be a bookkeeper and be a secretary or bookkeeper someplace. You don't need to go to college.
Did you ever talk to your brother about the fact that you felt limited, or the fact that your mother wasn't interested in you pursuing an education? Obviously, she didn't put the same pressure on your brother. Are there things about growing up in Savannah that you think would have really been different if you grew up in any other city?
Oh, I don't know, because I didn't travel much and I didn't get around much, so I don't know.
Were you friends with other people who did travel and told you things about what things were like in other cities and other areas?
I don't know.
Did your life seem complete? Were you happy as a child?
Yes, I didn't know anything different, so. You know, when you don't know what you don't know, you don't miss it, so.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to mention about growing up Jewish in the South?
I think so. You know, go.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, state your name, please.
Kayton Smith Jr.
All right, and Kayton, would you tell me a little bit about when your parents, grandparents, your family came to Savannah, and where were they from originally?
Both parents born in Savannah. My father's mother was born in Savannah, and probably, I don't know if his grandfather was born in Savannah or not. That on his mother's side. On his father's side, his father was born in Bainbridge, Georgia. So his father, Abraham Smith, may have been born in Germany. Don't know. His name was Schmidt before.
Well, I was going to actually ask you about the name, because you don't think of Smith as being a Jewish name. You certainly don't think of a name like Kayton. Would you tell me something about the origin of names in this area? And
Kayton, there was a professor, I have an old bit of Professor Henry Kayton, died at age 99 in 1902. He was from Baltimore. I don't know how he got there or when he got there. The Kayton came from because of where somebody came from, the town of Kayton, in northwest of Birmingham. Small town, Kayton, and it got anglicized. So that was Henry Kayton. Henry Kayton. Then there were 5 brothers, and then there was Jack Kayton who lived here, his cousin, and Peggy Kayton. They were first cousins to my father, but my father's mother was Ruth Kayton. She married Jacob Smith. That's from the Smith side, and then Kayton side is the other side. Okay. That's on my dad's side.
there's a Kayton Canal, there's a Kayton Street. Are things in Savannah named after your family?
After one member, Herbert Kayton.
And tell me about Herbert Kayton.
Herbert Kayton was my grandmother's brother, grandmother Ruth. Her brother was Herbert. He was very civic-minded. He was in the naval stores business, and he served on the he was a Chatham County Commissioner at one point, but he was active in the community. He was chairman of the Savannah Chatham Housing Authority, and they named a housing project after him. I don't know when he was a commissioner. I was told sometime in the 1920s, 1930s was about that time, and they did a number of sewerage improvements around the city, and one of them was the canal for which it bears his name.
I've heard a lot about anti-Semitism from people, and yet here is a member of your family who served on a commission and had things named for him. Did you ever hear about any problems with anti-Semitism in Savannah government or Savannah civic areas? And how do you think that he did so well so that he was so honored?
He gave of himself. He worked for the betterment of the community. And that the idea of community service permeates the family. Not everybody, but I picked it up a little bit. Traditionally, there has always been one Jewish city councilman in Savannah.
By design?
By design.
Why?
Don't know why, but perhaps to show being even-handed in all segments of the population. While Jewish population has been small, its impact has been very large. When I was growing up, Broughton Street was closed down on the high holidays. There was no shopping. They were all Jewish merchants. They closed. Later on, in the 1960s, when I was in the grocery business, who was in the grocery business? Barney Sadler, and had Walter Lowe's working for him. Ernest Huth, David Rosenzweig, Marvin and Sidney Rosenzweig, Bargain Con, David's Supermarket. There was Dave Hirsch, another Dave Hirsch. Joe Weiner. There was most of the independent grocery stores were Jewish owned.
Why do you think Jews gravitated to that type of mercantile?
That was just one of them. They had clothing stores. Jake Pine had Globe Shoe Company. There was Teens and Juniors. There was
Punch and Judy.
Punch and Judy.
Ben's
Men's. The Cohens had a men and boys shop.
Lady Jane.
Lady Jane
Town
was
Country.
yeah. Town Country was Kurt
Wall
Appel.
Street was Jews.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all Jews.
So it sounds like the who's of the business community were really
They
Jewish.
were Jewish, right?
Were there other areas of other occupations that also had predominantly Jewish workers?
Levy's department store was my family originally.
Yeah.
I forgot to say that. Levy's department store was the Levy side of the family. In the 1800s, when my family came over here, they started a small store called Levy's, and eventually they had, I think, 2 different locations, I'm not sure where, but eventually they grew to where the SCAD library is now. And my mother actually worked there in the office before she got married. By the time I was born, I don't believe it was in the family anymore. They had sold it. But before my mother married, it was still in the family.
So the Levy's store was not Aaron Levy's family?
No.
It was my family.
B.H. Arthur Levy.
It was
B.H. Levy.
belonged to B.H. Levy and me. I mean, not us, but our family.
That family line.
And you're related to BH?
Yeah,
Yes.
second cousin. I'm
B-
related to Judy.
And
Bick.
you're related to Judy. How are you related to Judy?
Judy Bick's mother was Peggy Kayton.
Okay.
And
So are you
married
also a
Kurt Bell.
Rosenheim?
Huh? Yeah. Huh? I'm related, yeah. On
So
the
tell
other
me
side.
about the Rosenheim family.
I didn't know them.
You
I
didn't-
knew of
But
them.
that's Rich. That's Rich's department store.
Yeah.
Rich's department store.
Yeah, it was
Was Rosenheim.
Right.
He changed his name to Rich.
Mhm.
I just interviewed Jim Bunny Cohen's husband.
Montag.
Jimmy
Montag.
Montag, yeah.
He said his family was Rich's department store.
Yeah, well,
They're related. Carol,
Right.
when we moved to Mobile, we went to Temple.
It was the high holidays. We moved there in August. It was in September.
We went,
Rosh
but as soon
Hashanah.
as we got there, we went to Temple.
Right.
And when we were leaving, we saw this old lady.
No, wait. It was Rosh Hashanah. They had a reception after the morning service. We didn't know anybody. We knew we had to go meet people. So I saw this older lady, and I went out and I shook hands. I said, "Hi, I'm Kayton Smith." And before I could say anything else, she said, "From Savannah?"
She said she was related to us. We're not sure she was, but she knew of the family, and around and about way there was a relation involved. Yeah, she was related to the Montags.
Yeah, right. Her daughter Jackie married Tony Montag, who's Jimmy's brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So this is a question for you, Kate, really, because several people have talked about ways to keep their Jewish children Jewish in a time when there were very few social options for Jewish people. You were a little bit restricted, as Lucile has said, but at the same time, there were very few other Jewish people. So, in the 20s and 30s, it would have been the ballyhoo dances and the coronets. And then a little bit later, maybe the Cinderella balls and that sort of thing. What type of activities do you remember growing up that your parents had you involved in that helped you gravitate towards other Jewish children?
Temple youth. This synagogue got the temple and temple youth. My parents did not push me into Jewish activities. The reason is my father was an ethical culturist. Essentially, as he explained to me, he said, it has all of the ethical and moral teachings of Judaism, but without the ritual, without the symbolism and the ritual. But it practiced all the ethical and moral behavioral traits that Judaism proposes, not proposes, but emphasizes. So I got that kind of training at home.
So did you do any rituals at all in your home? Did you do Passover or Shabbat or?
No. On Hanukkah, we did have a Hanukkah, and Mother lit the lights. That's it.
Yeah, that's all we did. I didn't know you got
and I was
presents.
told not to eat any bread or cookies when I was outside during Passover. My mother, no, I didn't tell you about my mother's family, because she was a Wachtel. They were born, her father was born in Macon, Georgia.
As in the Wachtel drugs?
Yes. Wachtel
Okay.
Physician Supply, yeah. As they say, when my mother and dad decided to marry, he was with Columbia Drug, the wholesaler, and her father was Wachtel's Physician Supply, so he was marrying a customer. Well, her father was a food broker, and I was working in a wholesale grocery place, and I was his customer. So, you never know how these things work out.
So how did your father and mother meet?
Through theater, through Savannah Community Theater, I think, yeah. At the time, mother was an actress, she loved acting. And yes, Dad saw her, and they...
Was it unusual for women to be in theater at that time, or more explicitly Jewish women?
Don't know. I never questioned it.
All right.
I mean,
So you grew up with a mother who did things outside the home?
yeah, she was the National Council of Jewish Women. Yeah. And
Your mother also?
My mother was in a lot of organizations. She was 2 times president of the Sisterhood. She was president's council. She was involved in community activities. My dad, I don't know if he was president of the Brotherhood, but he was involved in the Brotherhood. So I got a lot of that from my Jewish background just by seeing their involvement as well, I guess.
when I was a child, probably about 10, I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood, one street over from Lucile. It was heavily Orthodox children. Levines, Rappans, Perlmans, Alperts, Ulmer's, Kroskin, Lasky, and Alpert. And so, and a block away was Carsman and Cohen, and there were a number of kids. And their practices, I would hear about their practices, and they had to go to Hebrew school, and I didn't. But I didn't like some of their unethical behavior, which I tolerated.
So you were a bar mitzvah?
No, I did not. Not until I was 70.
Okay.
Okay, I was confirmed.
You were confirmed.
Confirmed.
And was your confirmation experience the same as Lucile's,
Yeah.
or was it a
Yeah.
little richer, perhaps?
No,
No?
about the same. It didn't
So boys and girls were treated equally, and
Same rabbi.
You
Sarah.
went to, you were going to go to school. You were going to graduate school. You were going to go to college. You were from graduating, then you're going to go to work. While you were in school in Savannah, you were going to go to synagogue now and then, and you were going to be confirmed. That was, you didn't question it. That's the way it was.
I think what's interesting for me is the fact that classical Reform Judaism stripped Judaism of ritual practice
Mhm.
and then seemed to need something to launch new Jews. And so part of that was maybe the introduction of the confirmation service.
I don't know. I think the study for the bar and bar mitzvah is more intense, more rigorous, and I think that may have helped. But my experience, I think I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I felt that these kids are talking about things I don't know. I'm going to go to synagogue. So my mother would dutifully drive me to synagogue, and I would walk home. It's about 3 miles. And she didn't stay. Sometimes she would, but she usually didn't stay. And it was a time when Mus Kerr, that was Lee Kerr's father, was president. He said, and also when David Bick Jr., that's David Bick III, fourth's grandfather, great-grandfather, he said when they were president, they sat on the beam, and they said to me, whenever you're in the temple, and I'm sitting up here, you come up and sit with me. So I did. So I sat on the beam. It didn't mean anything a whole lot to me, but I could see what was going
I
on.
don't even remember it.
And I remembered it. And I was invited up.
Do you think that sense of inclusiveness
It did.
that gave you something that you wanted to recreate so that later in life, and I know that you have been a leader in so many different ways of the congregation, do you think that maybe the seeds of your desire to do that and give back to the community came from there, or did it come from something else?
To give back to the
To
community?
give, right,
No, it
came from
home.
it came from home.
Came from home.
So even though your parents were not particularly religious, learning to give back to the community was something that came from the lessons they taught you.
Yes. My mother was raised in a more religiously observant home than my dad, and she gave that up from my dad. Because of his behavior, because of his thoughtful abilities also. He was 3 times champion of the Savannah Golf Club, city champion.
Savannah Golf Club, I thought
Yeah.
that was restricted,
No, Savannah
Yacht
Golf
Club.
Club. Yacht Club was.
but the golf club was
No,
not.
Savannah Golf Club was not. No. Yeah, Billy Waxelbaum, his first cousin, Dean Smith, his brother. I don't think John Leffler played. But Columbia Drug Company was number of Jewish participants, family. Isaac Levington was one. He was not family. He was there till his death.
Did anti-Semitism ever stop you from doing anything you wanted to do?
No, it didn't stop me. I just thought it was kind of stupid.
Do you have episodes in your life that you remember that clearly?
Two. I have two episodes. It happened at school, and I got called a dirty Jew. I thought, what's that mean? I'm Jew, but I'm not dirty. I went on.
Did you ever have an episode where you told an adult and what was their reaction? What did you do when someone called you that? Did you ignore it or did you tell somebody?
I ignored it.
I remember
So few
something
and far between.
being, maybe being wondering about not being included in, I don't know if that would be the word, being invited to some of these places where Jews couldn't go, to the yacht club, for instance, or what is that place around the corner from us?
Oglethorpe.
Oglethorpe Club.
Oh,
Being invited to receptions or something, wondering if I should go, although it was a private thing, a private affair, private party. My parents kept saying, that's private, it's different, because I wondered about going. But Becky was invited to a birthday party at the Oglethorpe Club. And I thought, do we go or do we don't go? Although this, again, was a private thing, and the family knew we were Jewish. Although they invited her, it was a cute little birthday party. It was luncheon and a horse and buggy tour around Savannah. She was like, I think it was she was in the third grade, a 9-year-old party or whatever. And I hemmed and hawed about it. I never said anything to the mother. I wasn't going to start anything. She was either going to go or not go. And we just decided, we talked about it, and we just decided she knows we're Jewish, yet she invited Becky knowingly, and we let her go, and it was fine. Ironically, the child has married someone from the B.B. Jacob and converted. I think that's kind of funny.
Oh, well, I was invited a couple of times to dinners at the Oglethorpe Club. When I was on the, I was in my 40s. I was on the state board of directors for the Georgia Society of Professional Engineers. And one of the vice presidents came down a couple of times and had to have the local group meet with him at the Oglethorpe Club, and I always just decided I wasn't going to go there. I wasn't welcome there. I didn't want to participate, even though he was out of town. He didn't know any better.
I have very specific memories of Miami Beach. The first time I saw the signs, no Jews, blacks, or dogs. Do you have those kinds of memories for Savannah?
No.
So it was a little more subtle.
I have memories of no blacks. And there was no signs, I don't remember, of no Jews.
No.
We just knew it.
Word of mouth, you were told.
You just knew it, but no signs. It was just signs, no blacks. White water fountain, black water fountain.
Yeah.
Black restroom, white restroom.
It's called white
Black,
and colored.
colored, yeah, it was called colored. We had the colored movie theaters.
Right.
And they weren't even called white. It was just the movie theaters and the colored movie theaters, and restaurants and so forth. And you just knew you went to this one and they went to that one.
Was
And the
there
schools
there
and so
anything
forth.
in your Jewish training anywhere that addressed this as being different or wrong or not within keeping of Jewish philosophy?
We didn't get that deeply into our Jewish education. It wasn't in the Sunday school. We taught mostly history and the holidays. The education was lacking.
Kayton, you have, and I alluded to it, you have done so many things, being president of the shul and conducting services that maybe you didn't get the training for when you were young. What inspired you as an adult to want to learn and lead?
Fill in the gap. My dad had a bad right arm, and he was totally inept at anything mechanical or handling a screwdriver or a hammer. So I got interested in that, and so I learned how to use tools, and that's a bit of irony. A Jewish man with hand tools. So I knew that my Jewish education was not very there was minimal. And only when I started leading services and had to read Torah, at least the translation, in order to at least expound on it on the Parsha, did I realize there's so much more here. So it forced me to read Torah. And that's where my education really started. That was when Rabbi Ostrich was here. When he asked me to lead services once. The first time, I thought, well, I suppose Lucile and I, when we married, agreed we were going to go to services every Friday night. And we did. And when I led services for the first time, he was going, Rabbi Ostrich was going out of town. He said, as he was leaving, oh, by the way, so-and-so and so-and-so are having a 50th anniversary. Would you call them up to the pulpit and give them a blessing? I thought, yeah, sure. Well, I did. I think I said the priest and benediction, and so I wanted to listen, whatever I said. Lo and behold, the next week they gave the synagogue a generous donation. So the week after that, when the rabbi returned, he learned about it. He says, no one's ever given a donation for me giving services. I thought, hey, maybe there's something going on here.
Direct reward. I really only have one other question, and that is, if you have one thing that you think Judaism has given you in your life that you would like to pass on to your daughter, what would that be?
It's what most religions try to do, is make the followers behave better, and to behave well. It comes to me. The tenets of Judaism: walk humbly with your God, love mercy. From Micah.
Right.
So that's the major thing, and to pass it along to their children, and on and on.
Thank you. Very good.